But for you, what came out to you the most in that judgment?
Well, I think the judgment is a sad day for Nigerians. Sad because I thought the judiciary would have been interested in expanding the progress we've made in election management. I do not have difficulties, I do not have issues with them finding in favor of Tinubu as being duly elected. By their own logic, they can arrive at that conclusion if they want. But I didn't like that they talked down on the petitioners. The language was quite intemperate. The language, I was the star witness in the case in 2018. I didn't see this kind of talking down on the petitioners. I mean, it is the part of the electoral process for us to go to court instead of going to the streets. And to make it sound like the petitioners were frivolous and use such intemperate language, I was a little disturbed. Second one is that I'm ashamed as a Nigerian. Nigerians want to join BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. I'll take 3 examples. Brazil, India, and South Africa are known democracies. Brazil conducted an election, and that election was a big election, and I will figure out how many people voted in that election. So in the case of India, they had 911 million registered voters. Over 600 million people voted. 3.9 million machines were used for that election. Nobody went to court. Not one person. The Congress Party accepted the result. The world has moved on. Nobody goes to court anymore now for election. And there was a voter turnout of 67%. In the case of Brazil, there were 92,000 voting stations. There was 79% voter turnout. 79% in Brazil. And it was done with DRE machines, and there were some also paper machines involved. But in all that voting, the electronic system was subjected to public review. The political parties were present, and there was a public review. So the countries that are in the BRICS, they don't go to court after elections. The election management is such that people do not just go to court. The system is clear.
Are we gradually moving towards it?
It's a shame that our judiciary did not have strong words for INEC. Now, let me tell you, three people issued reports on this election. IRI, NDI from the US, EU from Europe, and YAGA from Nigeria. In all their reports, YAGA said INEC did not meet public expectation. IRI said, despite positive expectations, election fell short. EU said, election exposed systemic weaknesses and therefore signals a need for further legal and operational reforms to enhance transparency, inclusiveness. So instead of rambling about whether the regulations is in contradiction to the law or not, I was expecting the judiciary to be tough on INEC on that. You don't need to create these ambiguities. If you created rules for the election, then follow the rules. It shouldn't be their headache whether it was the act said so or not. But by INEC telling everybody that this is the process, and there is something that I don't know if everybody is missing. In that election, the rule was that you will snap the result to the beavers and upload to the IREF. The idea is that when you get to the manual collation center at the ward, that the person in that collation center will verify the result you brought physically with the one that was uploaded. That is why if you go to the IREF, the result from Rivers State on the IREF is different from the result announced on the INEC website. If you tabulate the result on the beavers, on some EC8As, with the one on the ward collation, then you will see the disparity. It happened in parts of Benue. Labour Party came up with that. PDP came with a strong case of failures in about almost 25,000 polling units where the rules were not followed. We listed those places and we came with an expert witness who tendered them. The court said no, that the expert witness, we should have put his witness statement on oath in the petition when we were sending in the petition. But it was when we brought the case to court that the court gave us permission to go and inspect INEC material. It was the expert investigation report of the materials, inspection of the materials, that gave rights to the witness statement on oath. So there was no way you could have said something you hadn't seen. INEC needed to give us certified true copies of results for us to verify that INEC stayed by its own regulations. So there were 9,000 cases of overvoting in the election. 9,000 cases. There were almost 15,000 cases of where the INEC presiding officers did not follow the rules.
As identified by the PDP.
As identified by the PDP.
How come that the PDP was find it difficult in the eye of this very trial court to prove this case with evidence?
So we came with an expert witness. But they said that the expert witness ought to have been put as part of the petition, the witness on oath. We subpoenaed him because we couldn't have done that without the man having to review the work of INEC. And we got only the power to review when the case started. So we couldn't have joined that with our petition.
One will imagine that there are copies of the results in several copies.
Yes.
The one for the agents, the INEC, and all what have you.
Yes. And
the PDP agents privy to the copies, or don't they have the copies?
Yes, we have the copies.
Yes, that is the position of the court.
Yes,
that you should have come forward with prove your evidence with the one that you have and the one that you're disputing.
Right. The one we are disputing is the one that INEC certified. So we needed to see the INEC certified to be sure that what our agents are showing us is correct. It is upon comparing the two that we're able to make a case and say, yes, this is consistent. Doesn't it make sense? The ones our agents have are duplicate copies. So sometimes it's not very clear. But when you get the INEC certified copy, then you can see whether it was not stamped, it was not signed, it was the number of...
But when you deny that access?
So we got that access, and it is based on that access, after the petition has started, that the expert witness made his case and was subpoenaed to come and tender it. The court said, and I don't want to quarrel with the judiciary on this. I think that it is their right to interpret the law as they deem fit. But my point is the wider issue of the disgrace that Nigeria suffers. The process of going to court, it looks to me like two institutions don't want our elections to go well. The first institution is INEC. INEC is a monumental disgrace. INEC is an organization that I'm ashamed of to associate as a Nigerian. Because the promises INEC made, the promises they made with Anambra election, the Ekiti election, the Osun election. I came on this year program and called for a third-party verification of the INEC system so that we are sure that on an election day, that what is going to happen that day will not lead to a glitch. On election day, INEC said there was a glitch. When they did a mock election, they did it only in 463 or so polling units. That was small. The EU report pointed out that INEC did not test this system for a large-scale election like it did. But despite not testing the system, it's a shame that INEC goes to court to question whether not complying with its regulations is a fact, doesn't make it a ground to cancel an election. What is important in Nigeria going forward is that we have elections, like I cited. Why do we want to be amongst the BRICS if we can't conduct a simple election? India, 900 million people, and they conducted. Indonesia, 190 million registered voters, and they conduct elections.
I mean, you imagine that from your summation, that the election of 2023, the presidential election, was a sham.
A joke. Because let me tell you, the votings happened at the polling unit. There were people inferred that if we had seen the results from the polling unit and they went to collation and collated what we saw on the polling unit, I can bet you nobody will be in court. And it is possible President Tinubu will have won. It's possible.
So you don't believe he won?
So it's possible, but if you go by the allegations we made about the disparities in the election, then he didn't win.
Okay. So